I don't know what's going on here. There we go.
Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Moin Baig and I'm the events coordinator for the Greater Austin Asian Chamber of Commerce. We are delighted to have Mr. David Elizondo, Deputy Director from the San Antonio SBA office. Additionally, we would also like to thank Congress Lloyd Doggett and his staff members for helping us put this session together. We would also like to thank the event sponsor, the So Chinese Delivery. We are lucky to have Mr. Min Cho, the CEO of So Delivery here on the panel too. And finally, thank you all for joining us today for this informative session on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Feel free to submit your questions. We will be addressing as many as we can from Zoom and Facebook Live at the end of the discussion. We have a video from Congress Lloyd Doggett for the participant on the webinar. So let me play that video for you. Stay with me.
Thank you for your leadership, along with my longtime friends, Ali Katal, Robert Lee, Ying McGuire. Y'all are doing a great job, and our Asian American entrepreneurs are doing so much to contribute to the economic success that is Central Texas, and just making this a more exciting place in which to live because of the cultural diversity that is our strength. As indicated in my remarks at the recent Stop Asian Hate rally, rising anti-Asian violence and hate speech must be rooted out, wrongdoers prosecuted, support our local businesses, raise up our Asian American neighbors, and stand together with them at every turn. In Washington, please know that I'm working with close friends Judy Chu, Grace Ming, and other colleagues in every constructive step we can take to back up the Biden administration, also to include more Asian American appointees there. I know that our restaurants have been hit so very hard over the course of the past year. Last spring, forced to close, immediately switching to a model that didn't work for all of curbside or to-go order. Felt so miserable. Oregon, in being a sponsor for the Restaurants Act to support independent restaurants, which found the initial Paycheck Protection Program ill-suited to your needs. After many months and many obstacles, relief is finally here through the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which has been included as a part of the American Rescue Plan that we voted on and adopted in March. I've been surprised by the claims of some lately of concern about restaurants. Some of my colleagues, since both our Texas senators and every other member of Congress who represents any part of Central Texas, voted against the bill that had the restaurant relief that you're relying on in it. I was the only member to vote for restaurants and for the relief that is available to you now. I believe that this new law includes everything that we've been trying to accomplish since last summer with the Restaurants Act. Now the focus remains on ensuring that all eligible applicants receive this long delayed funding as swiftly as possible through a cumbersome bureaucracy. For the first 21 days after the program began back on Monday, May the 3rd, funding applications from businesses owned and controlled by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals got a little bit of a head start. Beginning on May 25th, all eligible applications will be funded, and that will be done on a first come, first served basis. So be sure if you didn't get in the first round to qualify for it, that you have your application complete and ready to go, because many other people will be seeking to get funds from the same limited source. If your application is approved, the SBA will directly disperse funds into your business's operation account. Funds can be used for expenses like payroll, mortgage, rent, utility payments, and PPE. As long as funds are used by March 11th of 2023, you got plenty of time. You do not need to pay them back. Though the uncertainty that you've faced has been immense, you've remained resilient and steadfast, keeping our community fed. I know that many of you contributed food during the winter storm that left thousands without water or power so unnecessarily. Your work was necessary. Your tenacity and willingness to give back is very commendable. Personally, and through my team in Austin, in San Antonio, in Washington, we've worked with many small businesses. It is true that my congressional district today does not include most of your residences and businesses, but that has never stopped me from being responsive to this Asian American community. And with redistricting happening again this fall, who knows where the lines will be? I may be representing you very soon. Meanwhile, even if you cannot vote for me, I will do my best to vote for you and your interest. Thank you for your contributions to our community. I always stand ready to help. All the best.
Thank you very much for that wonderful message, Representative Lloyd Doggett. Now we would like to invite, we are lucky to have Mr. Min Cho, as I said earlier, the CEO of Chinese Delivery here on panel 2. We would like to hear about their wonderful initiatives for the community, as well as how they survived during the pandemic. Please, Mr. Min Cho.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Min Cho. I am the co-founder and CEO of So Chinese Delivery. I'd like to first thank GAACC, Feng, Moin, and David for sharing this opportunity to sponsor the webinar event and allowing us to be a part of this really important information for our restaurant community. Just a quick note about So Chinese Delivery. We are a B Corp organization or public benefit corporation, which means that it's in our bylaws to make a positive social impact to the communities we serve. At our core, we are a food tech company with our own software development team that makes and sells, you guessed it, Chinese American food. Consumers know us for our free delivery and no tipping concept and providing fresh food. Recently, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we've also launched our So Giving initiative, which is to date donated close to $250,000 in food to the Austin community, and it's something that we keep on, putting forward and want to continue. I do look forward to continuing to engage with GAACC and Austin and the local Austin community, and I also look forward to learning more about the RRF or the Restaurant Relief Fund, and certainly asking questions during the Q&A. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for your continuous support for our chamber. We really appreciate that. Now, let me invite Mr. David Elizondo, Deputy Director, SBA San Antonio, to discuss the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program. Floor is all yours, David. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moen. And good morning to everyone that's on this call this morning. Can you hear me first off?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, good to go. I always got to check because sometimes I'll start talking and you won't hear me.
Absolutely.
So again, good morning. And again, thank you very much, Moen. My name is David Elizondo, the Deputy District Director for the San Antonio District Office of SBA, which does encompass Austin. So in case you're wondering why someone from San Antonio is talking to you this morning, is we do indeed cover a total of 55 counties in Central and South Texas. So even though we're housed In San Antonio, we do cover Austin, as far as northwest as San Angelo, southwest as Laredo, southeast Victoria, and everything in between. So you can imagine when we're getting these types of requests, my goal is to make sure you all, the small business owners, the constituents of our district, are made aware of the programs and services that are made available. As Congressman Doggett mentioned earlier, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is now live, and I'm very glad that Mon reached out to me at this current moment to do this webinar, because we're currently in the priority period for folks to apply for the RRF funds. So RRF, Restaurant Revitalization Fund, is a tongue twister, so I'm going to refer to it as RRF moving forward. It's a grant program indeed. There's certain criteria that must be met in order to be eligible. So enough of seeing my face. Now what I'm going to do is turn it over to the presentation that I have here. So give me 2 seconds as I fire it up. Okay, Mullen, can you confirm you're seeing this, sir?
Yes, sir, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the SBA is a federal independent agency that started in 1953 to be the voice for the small business community. And there's been a lot of programs that have been passed through the years for the small businesses. And there's been a lot more programs that have come online as a result of this pandemic. Programs that have never existed before, such as the Paycheck Protection Program, the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. These are all unprecedented programs to help small business owners get back on their feet. So today, we're going to talk specifically about the RRF, but do know that SBA has other programs available too that you may be eligible for. So let's see. For today, this is a quick overview of what I'm going to discuss, and we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you do have any questions along the way, I would advise to write them down and then maybe pose the question to myself or Moen at the end of the presentation. So we're going to discuss what is RRF, eligibility requirements, priority groups, documents you're going to need, and the utilization of funds. Okay. So the RRF is part of the American Rescue Plan Act that became law on March 11th, 2021, signed by President Joe Biden. The ARPA appropriated $28.6 billion for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, authorizing SBA to award these funds. Now, I will say, get on board as quickly as possible for this $28.6 billion. I strongly suspect these funds are not going to last long, because this is $28.6 billion for the restaurant industry all across the United States. Okay. Appropriations remain available until expended. Funds must be used, as Congressman Doggett mentioned earlier, must be used no later than March 11th of 2023. Some caps on the program, which is SBA may provide funding up to $5 million per location. So that's not saying you're going to get $5 million. It's up to, based off the information that you generate on the calculations. And it's not to exceed more than $10 million total for yours and any affiliated businesses you may have. So if you have one big LLC umbrella and you have multiple entities underneath it, in total, that LLC cannot obtain no more than $10 million. And on the opposite end, the minimum award is going to be $1,000. So if you put in your calculations and it comes out to, I don't know, let's just say $600, then you may not be eligible for the RRF, because the minimum that can be awarded is $1,000. Okay, so let's jump into eligibility. And I heard Min talk about a B Corp, and that's very interesting, because you really don't hear too much about B Corps. So it's very interesting to hear about. We do have a few B Corps on this call. So who is eligible for the RRF? So there's C Corps, S Corps, partnerships. If you have an LLC, if you're a sole proprietor, you're self-employed. Let's say you have a food truck, you're self-employed. You do qualify. Independent contractors, tribal businesses, and LLCs taxed as S Corps or sole props as well. So Min, to your point there, B corporations are eligible, but they will select either C Corp or S Corp on the application, depending on how you were taxed in the years past. Refer to your tax return to see self-employed versus sole proprietor distinction. So continuing with eligibility. Now, I know Austin is very big on the mobile food trucks. right? And I think that's kind of trickled, believe it or not, across, the rest of Texas as well. So here in San Antonio, there's been an influx of food trucks. In Houston, there's been an influx of food trucks. So the food trucks do qualify for this initiative. So do restaurants, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, taverns, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, such as coffee shops, ice cream shops, licensed facilities or premises of a beverage alcohol producer where the public may taste, sample, or purchase products. I know in Central Texas, especially, breweries are starting to become very popular, wineries. They also too can qualify for this initiative. And others similar places of business in which the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drinks. The entities must have on-site sales of food or beverage to the public that comprise of at least 33%. That's the key number there. So if you are a bakery, brewery, winery, distillery, and if you can demonstrate that at least 33% of your gross receipts did go towards food or beverages, that's how you would qualify for this RRF. Okay, who is not eligible? State or local government operated businesses. As of March 13, 2020, owns or operates together with affiliated businesses more than 20 locations. So if you have, I don't know, let's just say, and this is just no particular small business, 22 yogurt locations, Froyo. Unfortunately, you do not qualify because you exceed the number of locations, which is 20. Has a pending application for or has received the shuttered venues operators grants. So there is a cross-program matrix eligibility that I will discuss later on in this presentation. So if you did apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, or if you applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, how does that impact the amount of funds you receive for RF? Will be further discussed. If you are a public traded company, if you permanently close, so it's one thing to say you temporarily closed. I know Austin and San Antonio, they had some restrictions of indoor seating that you had to basically pivot your small business, or perhaps you had to shut down completely, but you reopened, then you still do qualify. But if you permanently close, that's where you do not. Unfortunately, nonprofits are not eligible for this particular program. And as I mentioned earlier, that you have to be at least eligible of at least $1,000 for this program. Here's an interesting fact. Most people associate bankruptcy with, I'm not going to get any assistance, but there is a glimpse of hope. So even if you did apply for bankruptcy, you still may be eligible for this particular initiative under certain criteria. So if you are operating under an approved plan of reorganization under either a Chapter 11, 12, or 13 bankruptcy and meet all program requirements, then you are eligible. If you temporarily close your doors due to state or local restrictions or other pandemic causes, but are still in operation or have reopened, you are eligible. Who's not eligible? You are permanently closed. You filed a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy or filed for either a 7, 11, 12, or 13 bankruptcy, but are not under an approved plan of reorganization. Let's talk about franchises. So in case there's any franchises on this call, this definitely pertains to you. Any business that is a franchise and meets all other program requirements is eligible. The franchise must be listed on the SBA franchise directory so you can look up your company when you are in the portal applying. So a simple Google search of SBA franchise directory should point you to SBA's website. Make sure you're clicking on sba.gov. There are other websites out there. The one that jumps to mind in particular is sba.com, which is not affiliated with the federal government. So make sure you're clicking on sba.gov to look at the SBA franchise directory. If you're not on the franchise directory, let's say you're a franchise, but it's not reflected, that's not a deal killer. You can still apply. What you need to do is send an email to franchise@sba.gov with your franchise agreements and documents. Sometimes they also refer to it as FDD, franchise disclosure documents. Okay. So earlier I talked about cross-program eligibility. So in case you did apply for Triple P, the Shutting Veterans Operators Grants, EIDL, or other programs, this right here visualization kind of shows you what's going to happen next. So if you applied for the triple P loans received by the RRF applicants will affect the applicant's funding calculation. Okay, that doesn't mean that just because you got triple P, you're not going to get RRF at all, just depending on the amount of triple P that was awarded. Now, if I have anyone on here that received the Shutter Venues Operators Grants, entities that have a pending application for or received an RRF are not eligible to apply for SVOG. So essentially, it's from the same pot of money where if you're getting the RRF funds and you're also trying to apply for SVOG, once you put in your EIN, your Social Security, the system's going to recognize that. So you can only receive one or the other. Okay. Now, if you applied for the EIDL stands for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That's a totally different program from Triple P, from the SVOG. The EIDL is a loan by the SBA directly. So unlike the Triple P, where you were talking to SBA participating lenders, the EIDL was administered directly through SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance. So here you can apply for both RRF and EIDL. And then last one is, can I apply for RRF more than once? You may not. This is a one-time application process that can only be used once per entity. What's different about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund compared to, say, SVOG is for the Shutter Venues Operators Grant, you need to apply through SAM to create a profile in order to apply. If you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say DUNS number, cage identifier, don't worry, this does not apply to you. For the purpose of the restaurant revitalization, you're applying directly through SBA's website or one of 4 point of sale vendors. On SBA's website, and at the end of the presentation, I'll send you a link on the chat box. So for those that are on their computer or listening to this, I'll send you a link in the chat box of where to go to get the latest information about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, who you can apply with, the other 4 point of sale vendors, who can I call for customer service, all that will be further discussed. Okay, if you don't have your individual taxpayer identification number, you need to go to IRS's website to get your ITIN. And then also we have frequently asked questions about your ITIN that's also located on the IRS website. So here we try to provide practical scenarios based off the feedback that we've received from the field so far. And to Mo, this slide is very new, that I think this is the latest rendition of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. This just went live April 27th, if I'm not mistaken. So this little slide here talks about the different scenarios that we've encountered. So what happens if I have a triple P loan or an SVOG or the Shutter Venues Operators Grant? Triple P funds will be subtracted from your final funding amount. You'll be verified using your EIN, your ITIN, or Social Security number. If you receive triple P, which is still live, by the way, folks, you can apply for the triple P through a community financial institution through May 31st. You must use the same EIN for your RRF application that you used for your triple P application. If you applied for triple P loans using different EINs, you must provide all EINs that you utilize. When you apply for RRF, you must withdraw any outstanding applications. So if you have any pending, you may want to reach out to that financial institutions to withdraw the application if you are indeed wanting to apply for the RRF. And for SVOG, you cannot have a pending application for or have received the SVOG grants. I'm letting you all process that for a second. Okay, so as Congressman Doggett mentioned, the federal government, in collaboration with the White House, acknowledged that there are certain groups of individuals that have been more impacted by this pandemic versus others. And as a result of that, they opened up the RRF portal to certain groups of individuals before it's released to all restaurants, or the restaurant industry, I should say. So priority period is days 1 through 21. So as of May 3rd, the clock is ticking. So you have 21 days from May 3rd to apply to be part of the priority group. So how do I know if I fall under the priority group? only applications from businesses owned by 51% or more. That's the key number here. 51% or more women-owned, veteran-owned, socially and economically disadvantaged applicants will be funded during this period. After May 24th, so starting on May 25th, a nice way of putting it is the floodgates are going to open. That means anybody that can qualify can start applying on May 25th. So my goal for you all that are on this call today, if you do meet the definition of a women-owned, veteran-owned, socially, economically disadvantaged owned, I would encourage you all, my advice is to apply now. And I can probably hear some people already asking themselves, what is socially and economically disadvantaged? Well, I'm glad you're thinking about that. Let's get to it. A business concern that is at least 51% owned and the management and daily operations, business operations of the applicant are controlled by one or more of the individuals who are women-owned, veteran, socially disadvantaged. You are going to self-certify. So if you're familiar with federal government contracting, there are more checks and balances in place, but for the purpose of RRF, to get the funds to you, the small business owner, as quickly as possible, a self-certification is what's being requested as of right now. Okay, priority group definitions. Socially disadvantaged individuals are those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in the free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. Okay. So again, I'm going to recap the socially disadvantaged one, which is again, racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regards to their individual qualities. That being said, there has been a lot of fraud that has been suspected already of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Big thing here is you will be disqualified if you reorganize your business for the purpose of qualification for the priority period. Everything's going to be scrutinized. One of the main documents that we request from SBA, from the IRS, is your 4506T, which is your tax transcripts. IRS, I understand it is tax season, so there is somewhat of a delay getting the 4506T back from the IRS, but do know that SBA is scrutinizing that document once received. So let's talk about particular scenarios to know whether or not I qualify for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund and how much. So let's look at one particular scenario. If you are in operation prior to or on January 1st of 2019, so we're going all the way back to 2019 on this, January 1st. This is what you're going to do. And all this information, folks, is on SBA's website of SBA RRF. So you're going to go to check your 2019 gross receipts minus your 2020 gross receipts minus any triple P loan amounts that you already received is going to give you your total amount. So again, how you performed in 2019, obviously the pandemic kicked in 2020, so you subtract the difference. If you received triple P already, you subtract it as well, and that's what's going to give you your total amount for the RRF. Scenario number two. If you began operations partially through 2019, right? So if you started, let's just say April of 2019, you're going to use this particular calculator. You're going to get your average 2019 monthly gross receipts. So you're going to look at, March through December. What's the average gross receipts for that time frame? Multiply that times 12, subtracting 2020 gross receipts. And again, if you received any triple P funds, subtract that as well, and that'll give you your total amount. Okay. There's another scenario. So if you started business right before the pandemic, I was a go-getter, and of course we had no idea that the pandemic was going to start around March of 2020. So I started my small business January of 2020. If you began operations on or between January 1st and March 10th of 2021 and have not opened up and have not yet opened, but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11th, use the calculation below. So you're going to add eligible expenses. So this is interesting. you can actually go back to 2020, even though you started your business, let's just say the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021. Any expenses that you incur to get your business up and running starting February 15, 2020, you can put this as part of the calculation. Once again, you subtract your 2020 gross receipts, any 2021 gross receipts through March 11, 2021, minus PPP funds. Again, the common factor here is if you receive PPP, you must subtract it from this particular calculation. We'll give you your total amount. Again, I wanted to highlight something real quick on this. So even though you started business the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021, and I started incurring expenses starting February 15th of 2020, you can include that as part of the calculations. Okay. This one's new. The scenario number 4. This is one of those new slides that was not included on the original PowerPoint that we started going out with. So if you operate multiple locations using different calculators. So here it's saying you have one LLC umbrella, but you have different locations underneath. You may calculate funding amounts for their locations using separate calculation methods and then aggregate the amounts together. The aggregated funding amount is limited to $5 million per location and $10 million for the applicant and its affiliates. Remember that I mentioned that early on, that per location, the max that you can get is $5 million and the max you can get in total is $10 million. Okay. Some of the other common questions that we have received as results of this RRF going live is, what can I exclude from 2020? And so essentially, if you receive PPP first draw, second draw, you can exclude that from your 2020 gross receipts. SBA Section 1112 payments. If you have no idea what 1112 payments are, this probably doesn't apply to you, so disregard that. If you received the EIDL loan, if you received the EIDL advance, this was a grant program that first went live last year and it ended, I believe, September-ish timeframe. It was a grant program in addition to the EIDL loan. If you have received the targeted EIDL advance or any other grant programs under the CARES Act, you can exclude this from your 2020 gross receipts. If the city of Austin gave you all, as a small business owner, grant money to help you recover from the pandemic, you can indeed exclude this from your 2020 gross receipts. And the last one is the Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief for restoration payments. Again, this is one of those scenarios, if this does not apply to you, then disregard it and then you can exclude it. Okay, so I'm aware that some folks may have applied already to the RF, but I want you all to keep in mind, this is mainly tailored towards those that have not applied, and I want to introduce these documents that you're going to need from you. So how do I apply? Straightforward, you can apply through SBA's website. Again, making sure that you're going to sba.gov, not an sba.com. So one way you can apply is restaurants.sba.gov. What's new about RRF that has not been done with other programs such as the EIDL, such as the SVOG, is SBA picked up 4 outside point of sale vendors to help process the applications. After the presentation, what I'll do is I'll share those 4 with you by submitting a link. But there's 4 in addition to restaurants.sba.gov. The last way you can apply is calling this 1844 number at the bottom of the screen. So that's 1844-279-8898. Again, that's 1844-279-8898. Keep in mind, though, that if you do apply over the phone, there's a potential that the applications will take longer to process. So what documents do I need in order to apply? The main form that's going to be needed is the SBA Form 3172. SBA's website, if you go to sba.gov/RRF right now, it should take you to the splash page of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, where there is a hyperlink for the 3172. The key here is for you to become familiar with it before you submit your application, because once you submit it, it's a one shot. Essentially, if you made an error, you're gonna have to call the 1844 number. Your process is going to be delayed. So I want to ensure that you get it right on the first try to make sure that your application is streamlined as quick as possible. I mentioned earlier about the IRS Form 4506T. Again, that is your tax transcripts that needs to be completed and signed by you as well. Gross receipts documentation. So any of the following documents demonstrating gross receipts and, if applicable, eligible expenses. So business tax returns, IRS Form 1040 Schedule C for a partnership, your partnerships, IRS Form 1065, bank statements, externally or internally prepared financial statements such as income statements or profit and loss statements, point of sale reports. So if you have QuickBooks, using that documentation as well as part of your application would be advantageous. Please note that if you have another software that's keeping track of all your documents and all you're doing is including the hyperlinks, that's not going to work, because SBA is very strict with opening up external links. We don't know if it's a phishing attempt. We don't know if it's a virus. So start downloading those financial documents now from, if you have this external website, because all the numbers are going to have to be manually input into the application process. Open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can call this hotline number. Again, I know I mentioned it before, it's there. You can also reach out to our SBA resource partners. SBA resource partners in Austin include the Texas State Small Business Development Center. They also include SCORE, as in SCORE. Just so when you go to Google, type in SCORE volunteers at Austin. There's a group of mentors, there's a group of business advisors that are prepared to help you. And here's the best part, at no charge. So if you need help with your business plans, you need help with your profit and loss statements, with your cash flows, your balance sheet. These advisors are working under a grant program by the U.S. Small Business Administration to provide technical assistance one-on-one at no charge. Also, what's important, and I think this is extremely advantageous to this particular chamber, is we have multiple languages available as well. So if someone's more familiar with another language, on SBA's website, I believe that there's over 40 languages, if I'm not mistaken, that SBA's material has been translated to. Furthermore, your attestation certification, you must certify that current economic uncertainty makes the funding request necessary to support ongoing or anticipated operations. Here's the thing, we don't know how much longer this pandemic is going to last. You know, I think it's safe to say most of us were thinking perhaps over the course of the summer, by the end of summer 2020, this was going to go away. But here we are, May 12, 2021, beyond 1 year of this initial pandemic, that we're still here dealing with the pandemic. Thankfully, most restaurants are at 100% capacity again, operating. But we don't know how much longer this is going to last. It could last another 6 months. It could last another 2 years. That's the uncertainty. So make sure when you submit this application that you demonstrate that you've been severely impacted by this pandemic. And just know that all this is taken into consideration as far as your application. So best practices, what can I tell you confidently is that SBA is standing up a team to focus strictly on the RRF initiative. As a matter of fact, some of my personnel here from the district office are being pulled away from their core duties to help process applications for RRF. I can assure you folks, we're trying to get to this as quickly as possible. So in order to help us, this is what we ask from you, is provide complete documentation. Make sure that you're filling out every necessary cell or every line, every box of this application. Leverage your resources. Remember, I mentioned the SBA resource partners. You know, reach out to the City of Austin Economic Development Department. Reach out to the Small Business Development Center at Texas State. Reach out to SCORE. Make sure that your information is good to go. If you intend to apply for PPP, complete the application before you submit your application to RRF. So remember, you can only do one or the other. You're not getting additional funds from PPP and RRF. Remember, it's both combined at the end of the day. If you do require corrections to be made, you will need to contact the 1844 number. And just know the SBA cannot make corrections on your behalf. So if you call the local district office here in San Antonio, we cannot make the corrections. The only person that can make the corrections is this call center hotline. I can tell you there's over 150 people on standby waiting for you to call to help you correct your application in case it was submitted incorrectly. So going back to emphasizing what Congressman Doggett mentioned about eligible business expenses. So payroll costs, including sick leave, utility payments, maintenance expenses, supplies and supplier costs, food and beverage expenses. Here's a key one here: construction of outdoor seating. So of course, maintaining that social distancing of 6 feet, also known as 2 meters or more. If you want to expand your outdoor seating, you can use the RRF funds for this. Payments on any business mortgage obligations and business operating expenses such as insurance, marketing fees, licenses, legal, point of sale equipment, etc. By when do I have to use the funds for? By. So the funds must be spent on expenses that are incurred between February 15, 2020 and March 11th of 2023. If the business permanently closes after receiving the funds, so let's say I received the funds, but I closed my business, I don't know, October of 2021. The covered period will end when the business permanently closes or March 11, 2023, whichever occurs sooner. So in other words, if I get grants of $100,000 by October of 2021, I only utilize 50,000. What do I do with the other 50,000? Return it to the federal government. That's what's key right there. You cannot hold on to it. Any funds not spent on eligible expenses by the time the cover period ends must be returned. By when do I have to use the funds? Continued use of funds assessments. So after the total awarded funds have been exhausted, you must, that's key word there, you must provide a detailed expenditure report and certification for the required period. Until you complete the use of funds assessment, beginning December 2021, you are required to provide self-reported, unaudited data detailing the use of distributed funds each year through 2023. SBA will provide additional guidance that outlines the detailed reporting requirements procedures in the coming weeks. So let's just say you again had 100,000 and you only exhausted 25,000 by the end of December 2021. So of the $25,000 that you have exhausted, you must provide a self-reported unaudited data report detailing how you exhausted that $25,000. So important contact information. So there's the website there. For the latest and greatest information regarding the RRF, go to sba.gov/restaurants. You can also call the 1844 number if you prefer talking to someone. Again, I mentioned the SBA resource partners. If you go to sba.gov/local-assistance, you simply type in your zip code, and that's where a list of SBA resource partners will come, will show up on a map. And most importantly, if you want to learn more about other programs available by SBA in addition to RF, if you go to sba.gov/relief, you will learn more about the Shutter Venues Operators Grant, about the EIDL, about the Triple P. So a few key things to keep in mind. The Triple P application is only open to CFIs right now. So for example, in Austin, there's BCL, Texas, Capital, CDC, People Fund, Lift Fund, or some CFIs in that market that you can still apply for Triple P until the end of this month. So you have 19 days, if my math is correct, to apply for Triple P. For the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, also known as EIDL, the original deadline was December 31st of 2020, but Congress has agreed to extend the deadline until December 31st of 2021. Furthermore, if you want to learn more about SBA, we do have a Facebook page that's controlled by headquarters. So facebook.com/sba.gov. We do have a Twitter page, sba.gov. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing here on the district office, go to sba.gov/updates. It's going to ask you for your zip code and which district offices you want to opt in for. So whenever we do email updates as far as upcoming webinars, if you go to updates and subscribe to our email distribution list, you will get an email notification for upcoming events. That's what's going on. So that being said, that's the bulk of my presentation, Moen. Let me stop sharing my screen so you all can stop seeing my passwords. And now we can open up to question and answers. Did you want to start off with the Q&As that were sent in prior to?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. Let me first say thank you for the informative and such a detailed presentation. It pretty much covered so many questions. I believe some of them joined later on, but let me go over the questions one by one.
Okay.
We have the first question here with us. It says, when did the RRF portal go live and when does the priority period end?
So the applications, the portal first went live April 30th, but the SBA started receiving or accepting applications, processing applications on May 3rd. So the priority period is now. And I would imagine, Moen, the majority of the folks part of your chamber probably apply or eligible for the priority period. So they have until May 24th before it is eligible for all restaurant owners that do not fall under the socially economically disadvantaged category.
We have another question. It goes like, can I apply for both the PPP and RRF?
So the answer is yes, you can apply for both. Just keep in mind that if you have received triple P, those funds will be reduced from the RRF amount that has been awarded.
Another question, is the information for RRF in other languages? I believe you discussed a little bit, but if you can also.
Yes.
explain that.
So if folks visit sba.gov/restaurants, there are, let's see, 5, 6, 12, 18, 24, 34 different languages over the Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
That's very good to know. There's another question. What number can I call for RRF related inquiries?
Correct. So that number, I know I mentioned it a few times during the presentation, but in case we have any folks calling in, is 844-279-8898. Again, that's 844-279-8898.
Okay. Another question, where can I find more information about the RRF program?
Great question. So the presentation I did today, folks, may change as early as tomorrow, may change next week. So that's why we wanted to ensure that at least you all have the website you all can visit for the latest information. A simple, if you go to your browser and type in sba.gov/RRF, it should take you to the splash page for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, where the latest information is shown for this particular program.
So there's another question. They're asking if a copy of the PowerPoint will be emailed to the attendees. Just, like we have this recording available on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page, but if you want to answer that.
Right.
Is it fine if we'll send a copy of the presentation to our attendees?
What I would encourage folks is the PowerPoint, or I'm sorry, the YouTube video link in lieu of the PowerPoint, because again, this information, Moen, has already been updated once.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know when it's going to be updated again. It could be again later this afternoon that this information may be updated again.
So folks, you can come back to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel and rewatch this video. I believe that's pretty much, you have covered it extensively. We would again like to thank you for your time. I know you have a very busy schedule. Like I know nowadays everybody is trying to reach out to you, and we are lucky to get that opportunity to spread the word around. And we again would like to thank our event sponsor. Without your due support, it wasn't possible for us to put the things together. Again, a big shout out goes to Congressman Lloyd Stogger's office for pushing everything. And yeah, it was a wonderful session. Once again, to all those folks who joined us as attendee, we also thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll try to redirect towards the SBA office and David. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Moen. I take it the recording stopped now?
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully that covered the main points. And Moen, thank you very much for the opportunity. And for sure, I think we should have this as the impetus of more to come with the chamber. So definitely want to do more presentations, especially other programs that we have available Like, I think a lot of people underutilize the resource partners component. So, instead of paying people hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for a business plan, financial projections, how do I incorporate in the state of Texas? We have these people ready to go in Austin to help you all. So
That will be a great help. As you said, I also registered a company. Like, it's a process. If somebody is going to mentor you or at least navigate you where to go, these are some of the topics instead of paying somebody thousands of dollars. It's quite simple. You can go online and make those things happen. And
right.
yeah, Min says, thanks, guys. Signing off now. Yeah,
Yeah.
we would love to partner on other topics too, but now I have your email address and phone number. We'll bug you more often now.
Absolutely. Send all your emails, your questions to me, Moen. I know you probably need to circle back with Fang to see what dates in the near future that may work. If you want to shoot a few dates, times my way for the future, and give me an idea of topics that you'd like to discuss, I'll be more than open to working with you, sir.
Absolutely. Once again, you have a wonderful day, sir.
All right. Thanks, Moen.
Thank
We'll
you,
be in
David.
touch.
Take care. Stay in contact.
Thank you.
Bye.